Good evening, everybody. The September 24th, 2024 Hibbing Public Utilities Commission meeting is called to order. All commissioners are present with the exception of Commissioner Babich. First item will be our adds or deletes, if we have any.
No, Chair.
Hearing none, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of the August 27th meeting.
So moved.
Support.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Stokes, support by Commissioner Sandstead to approve the minutes of the August 27th meeting. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item be citizens forum. We don't have anybody. We move on to item 5, the consent agenda. Item 5A, approve invoices greater than 1,000, approve the bills and ACH transfers dated August 22nd through September 18th. Item 5B, approve the payroll paid and overtime report for the September 5th through and 19th, 2024 pay dates. Item 5C, accept notice of retirement for Mark Rieger, meter technician leader. Item 5D, accept resignation of Penny Pelosi, the facility and safety coordinator. Item 5E, request for contribution, the historic barn quilt trail in the amount of $500. Item 5F, request for contribution, Hibbing Girls Swim Club in the amount of $500. Item 5G, request for contribution, Hibbing Chisholm Blue Jacket Hockey in the amount of $500. Item 5H, request for contribution, Greyhound Bus Museum Anniversary and Fundraiser in the amount of $300. Item 5I, request for contribution, Hibbing Chisholm Youth Hockey Association in the amount of $250. Item 5J, acknowledge statements filed by Hibbing Public Utilities with the Minnesota PUC regarding carbon-free 2040 legislation. And that would be it. Would be the wish of the commission.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Sandstead.
Mr. Hart, Chair Hart?
Yep.
Just one comment. Within our consent agenda, we are recognizing 2 employees that are retiring, and I just want to take a moment and thank Mark Rieger and Penny Pelosi for their many, many years of service. I want to wish them well in whatever comes next, and just really appreciate your service to the public utility.
I second that. Yeah. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Penny. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, likewise.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, under financials and risk management, item 6A, approve the August 2024 interim financials. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, ahead of you is item 6A, which is the financials for the 8 months ended August 31st, 2024. As the cover letter states, we are standing at approximately $1 million of income, operating income, which compared to about $400,000 of operating income at this time last year. And the increase versus last year is due to consistent revenue and increases and decreases in expenses for the same time period overall last year. Were we able to get Baker Tilly on the line? Hello, Bethany.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you for allowing me to come in and present these financial statements for you. I just do have a few comments on them. So the first schedule that you have in your packet is the statement of net position or your balance sheet. When you compare August to December of 2023, there's not really too many differences. You will notice a small change in the presentation from last month where we split out your total capital assets between total plant and service, accumulated depreciation, and construction work in progress. So you can see the components that make up your total plant and service and not just one net amount. You'll also notice, you have a larger long-term debt than you did in December 2023 because of the drinking water loan. But otherwise, they're pretty comparable from August when compared to December of 2023. The next schedule that we have for you is the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. And as Luke mentioned, you do have positive operating income and a positive change in net position. If you look at page, I believe 11, it shows the split out of the operating revenues and expenses between each department. So you can see how each department is doing individually as well. You will notice there's slightly more interest expense in the prior year. It's not significant by any means, but the utility did have their first debt payment in August related to that new loan. So if you go to the next schedule, the last statement that we have for you is the statement of cash flows, which shows the ins and outs, the cash paid and cash received from various sources. And there you'll see an increase in your principal payments and a slight increase in your interest paid as well to get to your total ending cash balance. Now that's a lot of information. Of course, I'll answer any questions that you have. I did do a few small, just general financial metrics on the financial statements as I was waiting for the Zoom meeting to load. Two key financial metrics that we normally look at, especially for utilities, is unrestricted cash on hand. So I looked at your total unrestricted cash, and that's your total cash plus the investments that are in the 4M account compared to your operating revenue. And you have approximately 14 months of revenue on hand, which is fairly healthy. The GFOA recommends a minimum of 3 months of unrestricted cash on hand for unknown emergencies. However, the rating agencies generally like to see about 9 to 12 months to get that really high bond rating. So 14 months is pretty healthy. I also looked at your debt to equity ratio just to see how much you're leveraged. You don't really have that much debt. So approximately 92% of your total capital assets are financed by equity or owned directly by the utility, and only 8% is funded with debt service. The average in the utility industry is about 50%. So generally you want to see about 50% or more financed by equity and 50% or less financed by debt. However, it all really does depend on where you are in the life cycle of your capital assets. Sometimes if you see a large amount financed by equity and very little by debt, then it could be indicative of just some aging infrastructure. And then, after a few years, there's some large improvements that have to be made, and then you have to issue debt, and it kind of flips the other way. So it is just all dependent on your life cycle. Do you have any questions for me on the financial statement or anything else?
Here. I just have a curious question, and maybe it's a Luke answer and a Bethany answer, but do we have any idea where our current request for debt will put us compared to where we are now?
So if you look at, I don't have the exact math Bethany did. So Bethany, if you plugged in $7.7 million into that balance sheet and added $7.7 million of assets, what does that change our debt to equity ratio? Sorry, it's dangerous to ask accountant to do math on the fly, but
Especially me. Add 7 million to capital assets and add 7 million to your debt.
Yep.
Here.
And I don't need the answer
Right.
now, I'm just curious.
But that's exactly the right kind of questions that you should be asking, because we have applied for a $7.7 million drinking water revolving fund. Remember last year we took the first debt out in the public utilities, multi-million-dollar debt in the recent history for the public utilities to finance the water projects, and received some very attractive financing rates of less than right around 2% or less. That's what we anticipate again this year. And
If I did that math right, Luke, and I'm going to caveat that because that isn't if.
yeah.
It takes you to 24% financed by debt. You still have plenty of room there.
Perfect.
For additional debt if you need it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think the utility is in very good financial situation.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Do you wish the commission?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Stokes, support by Commissioner Bayless. to approve the August 2024 interim financials. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 6B, approve call for 2-year service contracts as listed. Item 1, pipe fitting plan only. Second one, pipe fitting heat crew external. Number 3, millwright. Number 4, boilermaker. Number 5, vacuum services. Number 6, high temp insulation. Number 7, electrical low voltage. Number 8, gravel. Number 9, water treatment chemicals. Number 10, snow plowing. Number 11, HVAC. Number 12, asbestos removal. Number 13, water testing. Number 14, dig restoration. And number 15, truck and backhoe. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, as is typical this time of year, we go out for our bids and quotes for a 2-year service contract. And these quotes that are provided through this allow us to meet the 2-quote rule on our service contracts for the year. That doesn't mean we will be guaranteed to work with these vendors over the 2-year time period, but that they would be our a preferred vendor of sorts who had already their pricing guaranteed to us in a competitive process and transparent process over the 2-year period. So with that in mind, we look forward to going out for quotes for these service contract listed here, and then coming back at the next commission meeting to award it if we feel the votes were sufficient.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I'll make a motion that we go out for a request for quotes for 2-year service contracts.
I'll second.
Motion by Chair Hart, support by Commissioner Stokes. We go out for the quote for the 2-year service contracts. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Peterson, 1 and 2 were broke out for accounting purposes, or why did you pick pipe fitting services?
The number 1 and 2 were broken out for capacity issues. We thought just because we've run into capacity issues with having one vendor do it right now with the amount of work we've been doing in both the power plant and also anticipating a lot more work on the steam distribution system, that we thought it fair to have separate contracts awarded so that we could maintain 2 balls in the air at the same time.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item under financials and risk management, be item C, authorized request for bids for project 24-21 boiler blowdown system construction. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, ahead of you is the request to go out for public bid with the draft of the bid spec put out there for boiler blowdown system construction. This project would service the needs of boilers 1 and 3, and it's been a long time in the design work, and we're happy to finally go out for bid with this. And we've been working with BAR on the design, and it's been one of those long poles in the barn, and we're happy to get out the door. With that, request for public bids.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Sandsted, support Commissioner Stokes, to approve the request for bids for the project 24-21 boiler blowdown system construction. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 6D, authorized proposal for 24-03 turbine generator number 6, major inspection change order number 1 for parts and materials in the amount of $75,000. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Commissioner Hart. Commissioners, as you are aware, we awarded a contract for Turbine 6 overhaul to Omen Industries. And as is typical for that, there was a base price of the contract. And then any work that wasn't enabled to be foreseen in the base contract due to the inspection of the rotor and the internals of the turbine would come back before the commission on a change order. And so happy to present that we are well on schedule for Turbine 6, and we are requesting the total sum of $75,000 for the itemized lists of additional items that needed to be replaced or repaired to the internals of Turbine 6.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. What will be the wish of the commission?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Stokes, to approve the Urban Generator 6 change order in the amount of $75,000. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, item 6E, approve Wesco for substation project fuse mounts and fuses in the amount of $33,339. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, ahead of you are the two quotes that we received from Wesco and Irby in the amount of, listed in the timeframe here. Irby was the lowest quoter for the fuse mounts. However, the lead time was 3 years or longer, at which case we did not think that was adequate. So we are recommending the Wesco quote in the amount of $33,339 with a lead time of just over a year.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll support that. Motion by Commissioner Stokes, support by Chair Hart to approve Wesco in the amount of $33,339. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item will be approve Board of States for substation voltage regulator platforms in the amount of $41,916.15. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Commissioner Hart. Commissioners, ahead of you is a request to have the voltage regulator platforms awarded to Border States in the amount of $41,916, and this is for the First Avenue and Ansley substation locations. And I do have a question for Ms. Adams. Sorry to call on you here, but was there 2 quotes provided for this? Okay. So we made an effort to achieve 2 quotes, and we only received a response from Border States. So with that in mind, we are still in compliance with our 2-quote rules, and with that would recommend awarding the quote to Border States in the amount of $41,916.15 to Border States for substation voltage regulator platforms.
Make a motion to approve.
Support. Motion by Commissioner Stokes, support by Commissioner Bayless to approve Border States for the substation voltage regulator platforms in the amount of $41,916.15. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item G, approve purchase of a 2004 Digger Derrick line truck from Sourcewell in the amount of $474,144.65. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, before you is a request to purchase a Digger Derrick from Sourcewell in the amount of $474,144.65. As you're aware, as you know, we are members of a government entity, so we have to procure all of our contracts and purchases according to government purchasing guidelines, which require public bids over the $175,000 threshold. And because this is a large line truck, and this is a very large line truck that would both drill holes for power poles as well as have an aerial arm that would go up very large. It's an expensive piece of equipment. It takes some specifications and customizations of that. And the way Sourcewell works is just like the state bidding site, where you put in it's a way to kind of put in your specs and you go out for quotes, and the lowest bid is chosen based on the variety of bidders. That's how this truck purchase came about. And if approved, this is something that will take 2 years before it actually shows up here. The first installment would be part of the 2025 capital budget, and the second one would be part of the 2026 capital budget. And based on our policy of purchasing equipment we intend to use and customize and have for a long service life, that's why we are wanting to own this. If you recall, though, we prefer to lease light service vehicles. And so this is not a light service vehicle. It's a very large Digger Derrick, and that's why we are requesting to own it. So, and Ms. Adams is here to answer any questions that you might have of how the Digger Derrick is used and how this will allow us to continue our feeder rebuild projects that we anticipate over the next couple of years.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to pull this item from the agenda, and only because I know I missed the last working session because I had COVID. I have a lot of questions. I'd like to talk about this offline a little bit and hear some more rationale before I'm comfortable making a motion to approve something in that amount.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to pull this agenda, or this item
To
off the
just,
agenda.
to table it or to pull it?
So I
If
might,
we pull it,
I might recommend you pull it versus table it, yeah.
yeah,
Pull
because
it
if
and
we
just take
table
it
it, we
another
have to
time.
come
Right, yeah,
back.
we can talk about it the next working session. If you recall, it was brought up the last couple of working sessions as part of our fleet strategy, and very happy that as we get closer to pulling the trigger, everyone is aware.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Sandsted, support by Commissioner Bayless to pull item 6C, the Derek Digger purchase. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 6H, approve Abdu for request for proposal 24-04 compensation and classification study in the amount of $47,000. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, if you recall, we were tasked with going out for proposals for the compensation and class study of HPU's workforce. And we received two proposals. One was from Abdo in the amount of $47,000, and one was from Flaherty Hood in the amount of $49,500. And, you know, this was shared with both members of Local 94 as well as the HPU Human Resources staff, and they all evaluated the two proposals we received. And Abdo, as you know, is our auditing firm as well, so there is some familiarity already with HPU. And Flaherty and Hood is well-respected as well. Commissioner Sands said you asked me to check in with MMUA and see what the word on the street is, and they're all good, all reputable. It's just there's been kind of a cluster of sorts in Brainerd right now, and I don't think it's Flaherty and Hood's issue, but they've been associated with that, and so I think the team, without even knowing that, had kind of chosen probably somebody with a little less baggage. So with that, I feel very confident that Abdo would be the right choice for the comp and class study.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
I'd make a motion to go with Abdo.
I'll support that. Motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Chair Hart to approve Abdu in the amount of $47,000 for the compensation and classification study. Any further discussion? Hear none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, 6I, accept proposal from Omen Industries for the 24-05 turbine generator number 3 rotor repair in the amount of $189,300. Mr. Pearson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. If you recall, HPU has the need to update the rotor inside turbine 3 based on last year's inspection. And we went out for public bids for this through both advertised in local paper as well as put online in Quest, which is an online bidding form for suppliers. And we received one bid from Omen Industries in the amount of $189,300. And the bid does meet our minimum specs. And we recommend awarding this to Omen Industries.
Make a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
You made a motion, so.
Go ahead.
is there
I'll support it, then you can ask.
Got a motion
Go
by
ahead.
Commissioner Stokes, support by Commissioner Bayless to approve Omen in the amount of $183,000 approximately. Ms. Sandsted?
Thank you. Can you just give a quick update on what this is going to entail, the repairs?
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent question, Commissioner Sandsted. So this will require opening up turbine 3 again, and if you, for those of you at home, a turbine is basically like a big fan inside of a metal casing. The turbine has to get opened up, and this rotor, which is the big fan blade that has about 7 to 14 rows of fans on it, has to get taken out and inspected and repaired. We do know there's a number of cracking and pitting on the edges of the fan blades, if you are using that fan metaphor. And in order to safely run and generate for the city of Hibbing, we need to have those issues repaired as required by insurance, as well as just good safety practices to make sure our rotor that turns around at 3,600 RPMs is safe and compliant with all standards. So with this, we'll send this out to Oman Industries, and they would then inspect it, diagnose it, repair it, high-speed balance it, and then come back. It is likely that we are going to have some additional costs associated with this once that full damage is assessed, and we have a pretty good indication of where the areas are. It's just determining the best methods for repairing it. So we have $1 million budgeted for this repair.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, that's what I was hoping to get at, understanding that this probably isn't going to take care of every issue in there, but it's going to get the ball rolling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, we have, we had to do our performance test with it and just make sure that it's running and in the new seals and everything that it was kind of put in, just make sure that nothing else has further deteriorated. That's why we had to do the inspection first. But yes, we are still expecting that budgeted amount of about $1 million for this rotor repair.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Nope. Hearing none, all's in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, under policy and governance, will be the update on the superintendent of electrical and instrumentation position. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, if you recall, we posted this position in July internally, and then following the expiration of the internal posting, went outside. And, it had been a couple months since we had any real interest in this position, and we had mentioned at the maybe a work set about a month ago that, if we don't have any real interest, we might have to go back to the drawing board and rethink. But, since then, we have had interest in the position. And while I don't have a candidate to present before you today, I have met with one or two individuals, actually. And one of them is very promising indeed. So it's too early to tell. But I just wanted to say that I'm pretty confident in our first course of action. And with that, I look forward to filling the master electrician position so we can get back to getting fully staffed in our electrical and instrumentation department.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Any questions?
I do have a question. I know this question has been asked before, but can you tell us definitively where has this position been posted? What sites, how frequently?
Yep, so we posted internally first on our bulletin boards. That's the posting, as Mr. Rieger has drilled in my head. That's the posting, and the advertising is what happens outside of the walls of HPU. And it has been put on the League of Minnesota Cities government jobs and a couple other sites as well. But where we found the most attraction or the most results has been through word of mouth. So, folks out there, members of HPU, staff and otherwise, that word of mouth reporting, especially for the uniqueness of Hibbing Public Utilities in our area and kind of how complex and exciting our operations are, is something that somebody just going through a online job posting might not quite understand. So, and it does fit within our region. It's just there's not a ton of master electricians sitting on a bench, waiting, raising their hand, looking to get pulled. They're mostly owners of electrical companies like our dear chairman Hart, or they are, gainfully employed at a large industrial, institution in the area. And, those jobs can be kind of challenging and demanding, and I think HPU offers a great work-life balance that somebody, who's kind of senior or middle part of their careers could really benefit from, bringing their combined instrumentation, electrician experience to really help the local community. So with that, members of the public at home, we have a great opportunity that pays just about $100,000 a year, full union benefits. It's a great position.
Mr. Chair, what are the other, I know you mentioned the League of Minnesota Cities, and you said there's a couple others. What are the other sites that we are using to advertise?
Government jobs is one of
Okay.
them, and then I'll have to check with our recruiting department just to make sure I'm not speaking out of turn. But
Okay, I know that was one of the things when we weren't seeing the applications coming in, that was a question that kind of bubbled up, like, what are we using? Is there something else we should be using to get the word out? And so I think, as a commissioner, I'm still waiting to hear, like, what is it that we're using? And hopefully that'll help us determine whether this is an effective
Right.
way of advertising positions or not.
agreed, 100%.
So you'll get back to me on that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Bring it to the working session.
Okay, I'll bring it to the next working session.
Thank you.
Yes. So long as everybody's there. No, I will bring it. I will bring it.
Okay, thanks for the update on that position. Next item, 7B will be approve a posting for apprentice lineman. Peterson?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, ahead of you is a request to approve posting and advertising for an apprentice lineman position. And this would be a net add to our crew that would bring the crew size to 7. And as we anticipate a lot of work for our HPU crews in the future, we can't do the construction work unless we have an additional person on the crew, which means we would have to spend a lot of more money on contractors, which, sometimes we have to do, and that's the necessary capacity you need to do these big pushes. But as we look at next year, we're having at least 3 miles of feeder line to rebuild. We'd really prefer to do it with our internal staff. And I haven't validated this myself, but our retired electrical engineer, John Carlson, had said a contractor costs 3 times as much as a in-house lineman. And since we had a crew this size, the amount of work that our line crew has been able to do has drastically increased. The last time we had somebody in this, a crew of greater than 6 was in 2001. Since then, you can see the amount of rebuilds that our crew has been able to do. This addresses the ability for streetlights and everything else associated with that. It's also, while we can't promise this to any one individual at this point, we do have an intern that has been interning with our line crew for the last 2 years that was funded through a grant through the American Public Power Association. And that person would be an ideal candidate for this role. Obviously, we have to go through the process, but it's a great way to kind of show, with the grant we receive for building capacity in our regional utility, that we kind of build it forward and bring in new talent. As we likely will have some retirements in the next year or so from more senior members of our line crew. It's a good way of building up the crew, retaining the talent here locally, and moving the utility forward.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. What will be the wish of the commission?
I'll make the motion to post.
I'll support that.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Chair Hart, to approve posting for an apprentice lineman. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair? I know that we're in the process of making changes to some of the structure, our crews, things like that. And one of the things that we had discussed was really making sure that we had other positions filled before we started going this avenue. And so for me personally, I am not comfortable moving forward on hiring that position while we still have so many vacancies in other areas. that we have identified as being priority earlier that are still sitting open. So for me, I personally am not going to be in favor of supporting this until we see some of those other positions filled. And the work that we had done prior, identifying priorities, kind of following through on that. And if the course has changed, then I just need to be brought up to speed on that.
Okay, any other discussion? I mean, I'm favoring the posting because these positions aren't easy to fill. So, I mean, to me, the sooner the better to move forward. And could have a pending retirement, I would say, fairly shortly in the line crew. So starting now, in my opinion, just seems like the right thing to do, so. We'll have a quick roll call vote, so we're clear. Mr. Bayless?
In favor.
Chairman Hart, in favor? Commissioner Samstad?
No,
Against.
Against? Okay, motion failed, tie vote. All right, next item. We'll move on to new item, or updated item. Declare vacancy and approve posting of a human resource coordinator. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, if you recall, we have a position that is vacant. We can, I'm just kind of sensing the vibe in the room, and I would probably recommend tabling this until we have an opportunity to discuss open positions at the work session.
table or pull?
To me, well, table, because it's up to the will of the commission. I would intend to have the discussion and then bring this back at the next commission meeting. Would be my intention, but again, that would be based on the discussion at the work session and following afterward.
Table it, we gotta take it up to the next meeting. You pull it, we don't have to, so.
Okay.
Mr. Zimmerman,
I'll
you could
defer,
just pull the
yeah.
item,
Yeah, we can, right.
Yeah,
Let's just wait, yeah. Let's-
pull the item off the agenda, don't
Right.
consider it tonight.
There you go.
Thank you, Andy.
Do we need a motion on that, Andy, or?
No,
No, he's just pulling the item.
you just
then.
pulled the item before.
Okay, item number 7C has been pulled. We're near the end. Any old business?
Chair, I have one request, just because I asked the question to myself a couple of times, is it possible, and this, I could ask this in different setting, but can we possibly get it listed in the items that are budgeted, that they are budgeted items? Just so we can keep track and for the people at home, that they know that
sure.
all the money that we're spending, because we spent a lot of money today, potentially could have spent a lot more, but we're not listing that those are budgeted items that we've already planned to spend that money. It's already been part of the calculation. That'd be really helpful.
Sure, yeah, no, that's very well asked for, Commissioner Bayless. Yes, everything we ask for is budgeted in our annual capital budget. In most cases, that's the expenses that we are bringing before the commission. And we will be engaging in a cycle of looking at the capital budget again with both the rate case or the rate study that's ongoing in the November timeframe. So that's the time to kind of reset, recalibrate on the capital budget toward the end of the year, and that's very appropriate. But yes, all the items approved tonight have been budgeted, the 2024 capital budget. And if anything, we were a little bit delayed on a lot of the power plant spending because of the delay on the Turbine 3 project, which kind of ate up more than half of the year, and we didn't anticipate it done. So we're expecting a good chunk of that budget dollars to actually be spent in 2025. So a lot of deferrals year over year. So very happy to be where we are. As you can see, a relatively good financial position, but very good reminder to tell the folks at home how hard we work to keep everything this smooth. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Mr. Peterson, can you give us an update on where we are in our new building process? Our new billing process, the split billing process?
For the new
Utility billing?
New utility building,
Yep.
we are.
You're saying billing or building?
Billing.
Oh, utility
B-I-L-L-I-N-G.
building. I heard building. extra
Sorry.
D that came in. Yeah.
Are we building a new building?
So Commissioner Stokes, it's an excellent question. And for people watching at home, next month you'll see on your bills just a slight breakout of more detail on your bills so you can be clear exactly what you're paying for electric, water, and gas, how much you're paying for sewer and garbage. Our current bill left much to be desired, and it was at the will and instigation of the commission to really look at that and try to make that bill look as good as we could to provide the information so somebody could manage their bill at home and understand more what's going on. So you'll see a slight tweak. Also, you'll notice that starting in the month of October, we will not be doing door knocker disconnects notices, that the bills we send in the mail are more than adequate to cover for our 30-day advance warning notification. So we will be redeploying the talent from hanging door knockers to installing meters. So that will add more efficient and probably a more user-friendly. We've had a lot of complaints of people being embarrassed about coming home and seeing a door knocker on there. So still pay your bills on time, but we just will not be putting door knockers on your.
Thank you.
Any new business?
Mr. Peterson, can you let me know or tell me how the process works for this construction season and who's responsible for cleanup of the area and signage and things like that are happening on 19th and 41st Street and O'Rourke Road, that area is?
Yeah.
It's been terrible. There's no signage. The road's been cut off. Everybody has to turn around and go back. I feel sorry for the people on O'Rourke and 41st. It's a total mess. If there's emergency there, I don't, the ambulance will get over it, but cars can't get over those humps. And I just think something better should be done or something needs to be done to clean it up. I feel sorry for that people at the intersection because now I see people are doing like donuts because it's so sandy and stuff there, and it's just creating a hassle for these people. And I'd like to know what we can do to move forward and clean that area up and make that a little easier for crossing.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Stokes. The contractor in this case on the 41st Street project is Bagalis Inc. It's their job and it's in their contract to put all the road signage out there and make sure that the traffic is aware of where to go and where not to go. And I have heard some complaints, and we've addressed this with the owner of the company, and he pledged to kind of make some more improvements on that. So it's something we're monitoring, and again, I just want to thank all the residents of that area for their patience throughout this whole process. It has been a busy end of summer, very messy, a lot of interruptions, and also for the folks in Kelly Lake in the earlier part of the summer. So we have had kind of consistent complaints about traffic and signage and things like that. We've addressed it, and it ultimately is the contractor's responsibility, but we want to make sure people are aware that we're watching this and making sure we're exerting the right pressure on that contractor to perform according to our standards, and also to ensure that the public is aware. So thank you for bringing it up, and we'll keep monitoring that. It was raised with him today, actually, again, and we hope and expect some changes.
Thank you.
Any other new business? Not? We have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll support.
Motion by Commissioner Samstad, support by Commissioner Bayless to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, everybody.